Welcome back, everyone, to Saymore. This is Kim, the founder of MIE Mind and the host of Saymore. We're in season 2, and in this season, we're talking all about alternative healing, natural healing, and the ways that you can bring healing to your mind, body, and energy through things that you've probably not known yet. Today, I have with me Lisa. I'm going to read out something really amazing that Lisa wrote in her form. So give me one quick second there. This is something that when I read, I literally wrote back to Lisa and I said, I cannot wait to talk to you. I was literally, off my seat almost because I'm like, oh my God, what a story. Lisa. So here is something that Lisa's going to tell us her story straight from her own experience right here for you. But this is something I'd love to share with you. I asked Lisa, what are the 5 topics that you are most comfortable and most passionate talking about? And she spoke about how to use EFT, that is tapping for everything, creating an unstoppable prognosis when given a diagnosis. And she'll tell us all about that. This is something that I loved. The power of your mind, thoughts, and mental imagery to create the health and the life that you desire. Very often we think that your visualization, the power of the mind, vibrations, emotions, it's all about manifesting, but it's also about your health. It's also about healing, from different conditions. Foods and cooking for health and how to read your food labels, not just what they're saying, but what it actually is. Now, listen to this as one of her amazing things that she's going to share today. Don't let your doctor bully you into doing whatever they say or what they want you to do without doing your research. With that, I welcome on Saymore, Lisa.
Thank you so much, Kim. This is so exciting to be here.
Tell me about that experience where when I read that statement, don't let your doctor bully you into believing anything and everything they say. Tell me where did that experience and that message come from?
That's kind of twofold. I've overcome multiple sclerosis to where I call myself cured. The medical profession says there's no cure, so they just say you're in remission. But at one point, I did go blind in my right eye from optic neuritis, which was one of the first symptoms of the diagnosis. And then fast forward, I had a very well-known optic neurologist take one look at my MRI and rightfully so said, you better start making your plans now and don't apply for life insurance. I was like, really? I had been training for an adult national figure skating competition, which I, was well intending to do, although being blind in one eye and having crazy balance issues doesn't really go well with figure skating. So I did have to withdraw that year, but I did compete the following year and had the best skate of my life. And I was like, well, these are my plans and thank you very much. And you're fired. And although he did give me a referral to a super duper neurologist who helped me through the MS journey. I did shots for years and I did a lot of Western medicine, but I also did a lot of mental imagery that I know was very helpful. And every day, 2 or 3 times a day, through the mental imagery, I would remyelinate my brain. And today,
what were you seeing? What were you visualizing when you do your 3 times meditations, your visualization?
I would go in and have my little spirits take whatever tools I wanted. One day it was a sledgehammer or a saw and cut out the diseased parts of the brain and where the sinks weren't happening, and I would repave it with healthy neurons and just healthy brain tissue.
Wow.
So I mean, and you were talking about what I was referring to about how our thoughts and words are so powerful. One of the biggest toxins that we need to get rid of when we're on a healing journey is our own thoughts and our own self-talk. And I can say that from my own journey because I used to say to myself, if I had a friend who was talking to me the way I was speaking to myself, all that monkey mind and self-chatter, I wouldn't be their friend. So why am I doing this to myself? And tapping helped me get rid of that hugely. And even just, becoming aware of it is the first step. So if there's someone out there, just become aware of your self-thoughts and never say never. And, maybe it's not today, but not never. I mean, when I had to withdraw from that skating competition, I was devastated, but I said to myself, not now, but not never, and did it the following year and had a great skate.
That's wonderful. I've always, I remember last year, probably in 2020, we were having this, joint different experts, so to say, coming onto a platform and sharing with a friend of mine and a colleague. And I remember one of the participants saying that when she had, I think, dialysis, and she would go to the hospital and she had to just wait out, she had nothing to do. And that stayed with me. And I said, no, 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 no. You have a lot to do at that moment. That's the time you engage your brain, your healing mechanism, your energy, your thoughts, your emotions. And I randomly check with people around me, Lisa, and I said, what do you do when you're sitting waiting in the hospital? And people are like, I'm thinking, I'm worried sick, right? That's the invitation.
Bad wording.
Some people, yes, they're praying. Some are pacing up and down. Someone's taking a smoke break, and I completely connect to what you're saying. Once again, in the form, you spoke about how most people, and I think it's in the English language that we learn. There's no other way to say it unless we choose to say it. When people say, I am sick, cancel, or my diagnosis, or my cancer, cancel. Walk me through that entire experience where you educated the medical staff on not passing the ownership of a condition.
I have goosebumps when you say that. So I was diagnosed, it'll be 3 years that I'm cancer-free, July 19th. So when I was diagnosed, I found it through self-exam. So ladies, I'm a big proponent of that. And the nurse was reading me the results of the biopsy, and she kept saying, and your cancer is this, and your cancer does that, and your cancer, and your cancer, and your cancer. So I said, stop, this is not my cancer. She was like, oh. I said, I'm not owning it. I'm not giving it permission to set up in my body. Please stop calling it that. And, she was taken aback and she proceeded accordingly, which I appreciated. But I just go nuts when people keep saying, well, my this, and I never, ever, even when I was going through the MS, I never said my MS because I didn't want ownership of it. When I was diagnosed with cancer, it was never my cancer. And because that's kind of making it okay. And it's not. And I also had somebody once, after I'd lost all my hair, I was out and somebody said, so how long have you been fighting cancer? I said, I'm not fighting anything. Because it's not a fight. I mean, you take care of yourself, you do the best you can. And, you look at your nutrition, and I have to say that I swore up and down on a stack of Bibles, God forbid I ever had cancer. I was never, ever, ever going to do chemo or radiation or any of that. And I ended up doing all of it. But I did it with the supplements of, a practitioner in natural medicine to help, support my body through all this treatment and stuff. And they told me that the cancer was a lot more aggressive than they originally thought. So I said, all right, you get one shot. So I chose the most potent dose-dense chemo available with the greatest reduction in recurrence, and just went for it. And you were talking about what people do while they're waiting in the hospital for things. When I went through chemo, it was hysterical because it was like game day for me. I had my socks, I had my crystals, my special stones. I would bring stickers because I also do Reiki. So I would have my stickers with all my Reiki symbols on it, and I would have to hold each medicine before they gave it to me. I mean, sometimes I had to wear gloves and stuff, and the nurses were wonderful. They were all with it and everything, but it was game day. So I got kind of psyched up for it. I, had my things, prayed over each medicine, let this, help cure me and not hurt me, and made peace with it because I knew I had to make peace with everything that I was doing, as much as I was so against it originally. I knew if I was still against it, it wasn't going to work. So I made peace with it. I accepted my journey, and that this was, and I had a God wink because the test, when I had the lumpectomy, the surgeon wanted to do this oncogene test. And I was like, no, I don't want it. And then she said, well, this will let us know how this cancer best reacts to, whether it reacts better to chemo or radiation or both. And so I said, all right. And then I went home and I looked at how much this test cost. And my insurance at the time wasn't that great. I was like, no, stop. You can't do this until you get approval from the insurance company. And they waited and waited. And finally she said, listen, I talked to the lab. They're going to run the test because we have to get the results so we can start treatment. And they're not going to charge you until they hear from your insurance company. I said, okay, great. So that's when it came back saying it was a lot more aggressive than they had originally thought. And everybody was surprised because it was a teeny tiny tumor when I found it. So we started the treatment and it responded best to chemo. So that was my message from the universe to, maybe you have to let your will step aside and do what somebody else's will is. And it wasn't the doctor's will, it was mine eventually. But so I was in full boat, but I did learn about how not to get nauseous with chemo. And nobody knew, I finally decided that my journey through this was to help educate these doctors because nobody knew about half the stuff I was doing. But there's a documented study, not just something I read off the internet, that if you do a fasting mimicking where you eat like a really, really small amount of calories, the day before, the day of, and the day after the chemo, you don't get nauseous. And I got to tell you, I was never nauseous, thank God. I mean, I don't know anybody that likes to throw up or be nauseous, but I really have an aversion to it. So I even asked, and before you get all these crazy cocktails, they give you all these drugs to prevent getting nauseous and stuff, and those make you sick. So, and because originally I wasn't eating in the morning before I had treatment, my stomach would just get kind of icky. I wasn't nauseous, but just didn't feel great. So I changed my day to where I would eat like a half a serving of oatmeal before I went for the treatment. And then, keep it super light during the day. And I asked the pharmacist, I said, look, I'm never getting nauseous. Can you not give me all this pre stuff? He's like, oh no, I wouldn't sleep at night because with what you're on, you would definitely be sick. I'm like, all right. So I learned to eat a little bit before I got the treatment and stuff, but it kills me because all around these cancer centers, they're giving out candy and sugar stuff. I'm like, ugh, because I don't eat sugar. Well, when I first got diagnosed with the MS, I got rid of sugar and any inflammatory things in my food plan. So I didn't eat sugar, I didn't eat flour. I really don't drink. So I mean, once in a blue moon, I'll have a drink, but don't drink. And so, and on my chart, it said no sugar, no gluten and all that. And so the first treatment was 2 parts, and the second part showed up in this IV of glucose. And I pitched a fit because I was like, don't you people read? Why do we fill out all these applications? Nobody's reading them. And so the pharmacist came up and he's like, well, so what's going to happen if you have a little bit of sugar? I said, well, I could go blind. It's not that I'm afraid of getting fat. He's like, oh. Then I told him the story about the MS and cutting out the sugar and the flour. And he's like, well, we have to put it in this so your port doesn't get clogged and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, well, you got to find something else. So I did take that. He's like, well, I can't redo this, has, $6,000 worth of medicine in it and blah, blah, blah. So I did take that one round of the medication in that. But he was able to find that you can mix it in something else. So they were able to mix it in saline, wasn't going to clog my port, and I didn't have to have sugar. So he got a learning moment as well as myself. So you just always have to speak up,
I'm surprised when you're saying that, usually people say, I want to educate other, people that are battling or they're going through this. And you said, I wanted to educate the medical staff. They're not knowing certain options that you brought to the table through research and not just, chitter chatter is really surprising. And it's great that you've been able to share that. And they were open enough to receive it, apply it, and then hopefully share it with everybody else.
Here's hoping. Every time with this cancer, every procedure or typical treatment that I was like, no, I received some kind of double documented study about something that it kind of went, okay. And because originally with the lumpectomy, I didn't want any surgery because I was afraid of metastases, because that's all you hear about is people have surgery and then they get it somewhere else. And there was a study done that said that the metastases from surgery isn't from cancer cells leaking out and going to other parts of your body. I mean, we all have cancer cells in our body all the time. It's just a matter of whether or not they get turned on or not. what happens is with the surgery is that your system goes into such kind of shock, and your immune system goes into shock, that it from the trauma of the surgery, it will go and activate these cancer cells somewhere else. It's not that the cancer cells are leaking out. And they found that this simple anti-inflammatory called ketorolac calms the immune system down enough so that it doesn't go activating all these cells that we have, and prevents the metastases. So I told my surgeon, I said, I want this drug. And she said, okay, I want it after the surgery. And then you're on it for like 3 days. It's very strong, but it's not horrible. You take it like 3 days afterwards. And she was fine with it. And then I spoke to my oncologist, who was like this big wig at the cancer center at the time, who I ended up firing. And I asked her about it. She said, oh yeah, that's going to be common practice soon. I'm like, well, what are you waiting for? And then when I went to another surgeon for the reconstruction after all the treatments and stuff, he said, well, I'm kind of opposed to that because it can cause bleeding. So, all right. So the day of the surgery, I handed him the study and he read it because it was short and it was, double documented, qualified medical study. And he said to me, why don't I know about this? I said, I don't know. He said, I'm using this with all my women because he does a lot of women's reconstruction for breast cancer. He said, and I got my ketorolac. So, sometimes you just, I don't know, there's a meaning in everything and a good purpose out of everything. I've always believed.
So when you were going through all of this, then you were bringing your own energy, your own research to it. What was that voice inside, Lisa? Where was that strength coming from?
I'm a rebel. I don't know. I mean, my
You've been rebellious.
I'm rebellious. I'm like, don't just tell me that. The first oncologist that I had, the one that didn't know about, that said the ketorolac was, the other thing she said was, because I said to her, because you'd meet with her before you had your treatment, I told her once, I said, well, make sure that it's not made up in a glucose solution. And her response to me was, well, we have our standard operating procedures. I'm like, ooh, I said, and I have mine and they're not the same as yours. So I fired her. She actually, as I was about to fire her, she like transferred me. She gave me up for, she traded me with another oncologist who I love, who I'm still with today, he's the guy that I was going to go to anyway. But these doctors, you just have to speak up. I just implore everybody just to speak up and you let them know where you're at.
I think the energy, the power, the confidence that at that stage, because everyone has confidence here and there, and we've been rebels and we've had our own voice, or we've not. But in certain phases, when things like this happen and there's such a big fear around certain,
It's frightening. It's frightening.
Where does that strength come from? Were you practicing EFT then that opened up your energy?
I was practicing EFT then, although I have to say, even though I'm a practitioner of EFT, there are times when we practitioners need help from other practitioners because I was so freaking angry. There was a rage inside of me because I wasn't being heard. I wasn't mad because I got diagnosed. People were like, you're the healthiest person I know. How did you get that? I'm like, well, listen, imagine what it would have been if I wasn't doing what I was doing to keep me healthy. So the fear, I think it's the big fear thing that they're like, oh, the doctors, they know, and they do. I mean, they're wonderful and I'm not here to bash them, but they're trained the way they're trained and they have to say the things they have to say. It makes me infuriated when doctors give people say, well, you have 6 months to live. How do you know? You don't know. I mean, that's just from all these studies and all these other things. That's just a guess. But they feel like they have to say something. And I think the biggest thing for me, Kim, is that not for a nanosecond did I ever think this was going to kill me. I was like, all right, here we go again.
That's the difference, right? Because your belief, the way I'm hearing it, was not even the slightest bit tainted by what anyone's opinion was.
Right. Yeah.
Your belief was based on whatever was happening on the inner side that was saying, okay, go and fight for this, have it in a saline solution, not in glucose, do this, do that, take your document of research and give it to your doctor. I mean, that's freaking powerful and fierce in a time where most people are just swallowed in fear.
They're
And that's
totally
what,
swallowed by the fear. And that's why they just succumb to anything they tell these doctors tell them to do and to try. I mean, you know, even after the surgery, the chemo, the radiation and everything, they have these drugs that they want you to be on to prevent recurrence. And I tried all of them. I gave it my best. And each and every, I mean, and I'm not saying not to do them at all, but I got so sick on each and every one of them to the point where I couldn't even stand up straight when I got out of bed. I mean, I just side effect after side effect after side effect that I find, you know, I took myself off everything and I'm like, I need a quality of life. And I'm doing so much with the naturopath and diet and exercise and all this stuff that I'm like, you know what? I want quality, not quantity. And I still don't believe it's going to come back anyway. So you know, you do have to be diligent and do the best that you can with everything, but I just couldn't do it. So, and there are several women on my crew team that I belong to, which is all breast cancer survivors, although I like the word thrivers better, that have done the same thing. The side effects were just too harsh for them and they're off and they've been fine. So
in your experience, opinion, and expertise, what are the foods that one should definitely, you know, limit or like say bye-bye to? And what are the foods that one should invite in their diet? I know you're going to say sugar.
yeah, number one. I mean, and that pharmacist sat there and told me, I couldn't believe it. I just bit my tongue because otherwise I would have throttled him. He's like, well, you know, they're finding that sugar doesn't cause cancer. I'm like, you know, it just feeds off it. I'm like, what rock are you hiding under? But I didn't say that. I just sat there because he was trying to be nice. Definitely sugar. Acid is a medium in which cancer likes to grow. So if you can keep your body as least acidic as possible, that helps. Meats can be acidic, so just, I mean, I do eat meat once in a while, but basically just load yourself up with fruits and vegetables, greens, broccoli, cauliflower, all the cruciferous vegetables are great for being anti-cancer. Onions are great. Pomegranate's great. There's a ton of things that just, my favorite book by Dr. William Lee is Eat to Beat Disease. And he's great because he goes through everything. And he doesn't say, don't eat this and don't eat that. And that's kind of my approach too. It's like, because people are like, oh, well, I shouldn't do this. You know, if I'm going to get healthy, I can't have this and I can't have that. I should do this and I shouldn't do that. I'm like, don't shit all over yourself. Try, instead of taking something away, add something. Because I find that the healthier I eat, the better I feel and the less I crave the bad foods. Not that I like anything is bad, but the less great foods, the processed foods and, you know, all that stuff. So he in his book, he talks about, you know, well, pick these, you know, out of all these foods, what do you like? Pick the foods that you like to eat and just add more of that because they've got all the nutrients and phytochemicals and all the things that are health promoting.
Amazing.
Get out in nature. That's my number one thing too, is because nature rocks.
Yeah, and I think what you're saying makes sense in terms of so many layers. So there is the food that you consume, but then there's the emotion, there's the handling of that emotion. In you know, in the phases that you had, how was your social, you know, support system? Were they completely pro with your point of views and your beliefs? So they were like, oh my God, I'm going to add some fear into your environment. Which one were they?
I was so blessed. I had such an amazing support group. Because the gym that I went to was owned by this one guy. I'd known him for like 30 years. And that was his gym. I always say is like walking into Cheers. In the US, we have this program. It's old. It's called Cheers. And it's about this bar where everybody knows each other. And, you know, you're just, you know, everybody's friendly. And I'm telling you, I could walk in there bald as a cue ball, not be bothered by, you know, nobody's going to say anything. Everybody was like, keep coming. You look great. Keep it up. And that was one of the greatest support things because they were working with me as far as, was it a fasting day? Was it a treatment day? Was I eating, you know, as far as how far to push me? And you just got to keep moving. I mean, that's, even if it's walking, just keep moving because that's the greatest thing. And probably the number one thing is your mental attitude.
Totally.
because that just goes 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it was like with the optic neurologist who told me to start making my plans. I'm like, I got other plans than what you think I got. So thanks a lot. And I just, you know, kept going. I was like, all right, not today, but not never. And that's a mantra that I hope people hang on to, because there are days that really suck and you feel like you're never going to get out of it. But if you get your head around it, I mean, tapping helps. There's so many things you can do. And that's kind of my other motto is we can make it suck a lot less. Because it's not easy. And I'm not here to glorify it, but it's doable. And you just have to keep plodding against, you know, keep putting one foot in front of the other. Take it a day at a time, a minute at a time if you have to. But it does get better, and get some tools. I mean, tapping is amazing. I also work with veterans here in the States that are suffering from PTSD with tapping. And there's free tapping available to them. They just have to go to this stressproject.org and sign up. And you can, myself is on it, a friend of mine who I got certified with is on it, doing it as well. And it's an amazing resource, because I did have PTSD at one point from a botched surgery. And it was horrible. I felt like my body, my mind, and my spirit were all hijacked. Like I didn't know who I was, because I was constantly crying and just ruminating about all these things that went wrong. And I was like, this is not me. And I tried, the doctor said, you know, you have to try this medicine for a while because you're deficient in whatever the happy hormone is. And I'm like, yeah, I don't like drugs, but I tried that. I did therapy and nothing worked until I spoke with a tapping expert. When I was getting my certification, I was working with Dawson Church, who's who I got my certification from. He's like the godfather of tapping in the US. 15 minutes, gone.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really?
It was crazy.
So what could you share with our listeners and our viewers? So maybe the listeners will not be able to see this, but what is your go-to tapping mechanism that you can, you know, ask somebody as they wake up in the morning that they could do to, you know, just align their energy, bring them up into a good phase?
There are great tapping scripts and stuff online. YouTube has a slew of tapping people. I have a tapping channel on there. It's Health on Tap with Lisa. I have a video there for cravings and one on and some of what we just talked about, your health journey and how to tap for health.
Can you
So
show something now?
can I show you something now?
Yeah.
Sure. What do you want to tap on?
Let's do tapping on health.
Okay. So how it's set up is the tapping points are basically acupuncture points. And people get confused because tapping, you always talk about the negative. You have to talk about the negative, because if you don't, your subconscious, you know, if you start with all these positive affirmations, which are great, but as far as the tapping and getting the shift, it doesn't work until after you've tapped out the bad stuff, because the points that you're tapping on affect your amygdala and your hippocampus. The amygdala is like your alarm system. Hippocampus is the memory system, so that you're talking about bad stuff. Well, the tapping is calming your nervous system. So then the bad stuff isn't so bad.
Okay.
If that makes sense. Does that make sense to you?
No, I didn't get. So I understand that you need to, sometimes you approach the negative so that you can release it and then replace it with the positive. You don't just layering the positive on the negative.
You don't start with the positive.
Exactly. So then you release the blocks first.
Right. And then you can filter in some of the positive. But while you're talking about the negative, the tapping is calming your nervous system down, so that it makes the negative not so bad, so that eventually you can talk about the negative without igniting your nervous system.
The trigger, yeah.
And causing all these, you know, bad hormones and cortisol to start flooding your body. And so that you can really talk about it kind of at a distance. And it's like, okay.
No reaction.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
Wow.
I mean, I have people, and I love it because I call it the magical mystery tour, because we start in one place and then you keep talking to them and you kind of end up over here and you go there to there to there, and then you come back to where you started. I mean, I constantly have people will start out and they can be tearful or really upset or really stressed. And by the end of the session, they're laughing. And it's like, they're like, what happened? I'm like, You did it, baby.
Brilliant, right?
Yeah.
Brilliant stuff.
And it was my nephew who got me into this. I have to say, because my nephew one summer, he was having this horrible aversion to moths, the little white things that fly around.
Mhm.
And my sister Nancy, she's older than me. I have 3 sisters. She said, she knows I've been doing all kind of alternative stuff forever. And she's like, I don't know what to do with him. Do you have any ideas? And I had only seen tapping online with the Ordiners. And they do a great job. They're, God bless them, because they're getting the word out there. So I said, well, we can try tapping. And I, knowing like this much. And so I did it with him. It was a miracle. It was amazing because he took to it like a moth to a flame. Haha. But, and he just kind of started making up his own scripts and stuff. And after there was a moth in the window afterwards, I said, look, Chris, there's a moth over there. No reaction. He just started, moths can't hurt me. I'm bigger than they are. They're more afraid of me than I am. And I was like, thank you, Jesus.
Wow.
And my sister was like, well, what do we do if it stops working? I'm like, we tap again. Because if it doesn't work right away, or it does stop working, it means there's an aspect of whatever it is that you've missed that you have to tap on to remove. So
Wow.
if you want to tap on health, just generally, you start at the karate chop point and you do say it 3 times.
Okay.
So, and then we'll just go through the points and you follow me and repeat after me.
Okay.
So even though I have this health issue,
Even though I have this health issue,
that's really scaring me to pieces,
that's really scaring me to pieces,
I honor my feelings
I honor my feelings,
and I deeply and completely love and accept myself.
and I deeply and completely love and accept myself.
Even though I have all this stress around this health issue,
Even though I have all the stress around this health issue,
and I feel like I'm just going to explode,
and I feel like I'm just going to explode,
I honor these feelings
I honor these feelings,
and I deeply and completely love and accept myself.
and I deeply and completely love and accept myself.
Even though they're telling me I have this health issue
Even though they're telling me I have this health issue,
and I want nothing to do with it,
and I want nothing to do with it,
I'm going to have to deal with it somehow.
I'm going to have to deal with it somehow.
And it scares the bejesus out of me.
And it scares the bejesus out of me.
But I honor these feelings.
But I honor these feelings.
I know I have the strength and the power.
I know I have the strength and the power.
And I deeply and completely love and accept myself.
And I deeply and completely love and accept myself.
Then you go into where like your eyebrow meets the bridge of your nose.
Okay.
All this fear,
All this fear,
this diagnosis,
this diagnosis,
what are they telling me?
what are they telling me?
I'm so scared.
I'm so scared.
And to the outside of your eyebrow, like around your temple.
Mhm.
I'm so freaked out by this diagnosis.
I'm so freaked out by this diagnosis.
I don't know what I'm going to do.
I don't know what I'm going to do.
Who's going to take care of my family?
Who's going to take care of my family?
Who's going to take care of me?
Who's going to take care of me?
And where your people would be if you look straight ahead. I'm so scared. So right underneath.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep, there you go. I'm so scared.
I'm so scared.
I can't believe they're telling me this.
I can't believe they're telling me this.
How could my body fail me?
I'm
How
sorry?
could my body fail me?
How could my body fail me?
I'm so healthy usually.
I'm so healthy usually.
It can't be me.
I can't be me.
Under your nose. I can't believe they're telling me this.
I can't believe they're telling me this.
I don't know who to believe.
I don't know who to believe.
I'm so scared.
I'm so scared.
I don't want to be sick.
I don't want to be sick.
I don't want to die.
I don't want to die.
And your lip. It's unbelievable that they're telling me this.
It's unbelievable that they're telling me this.
They must have the wrong test.
They must have the wrong test.
I think they got switched.
I think they got switched.
I feel so healthy. It can't be me.
I feel so healthy, it can't be me.
But now I have to deal with this.
But now I have to deal with this.
And I'm scared to death.
And I'm scared to that.
Then where your collarbone meets your breastbone. All this health issues.
All these health issues.
I'm so scared.
I'm so scared.
This is the stuff that happens to somebody else, not me.
This is the stuff that happens to somebody else, not me.
I can't believe it's happening.
I can't believe it's happening.
I just don't know what to do.
I just don't know what to do.
I'm in such a panic.
I'm such a pan.
Okay, then you go under your armpit, like where your bra line would be, 4 inches from your armpit. This health issue,
This health issue,
I don't want it to define me.
I don't want it to define me.
I can't believe I'm sick. They're telling me I'm sick.
Like, I can't believe they're telling me I'm sick.
I feel so healthy.
I feel so healthy.
How can this be?
How can this be?
I'm so scared.
I'm so scared.
Okay, top of your head. I can't believe I just got this news.
I can't believe I just got this news.
How could this be possible?
How could this be possible?
I feel so good.
I feel so good
But they're giving me this diagnosis
that they're giving me this diagnosis,
and it scares me so much.
and it scares me so much.
Okay, so take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. And then you would keep repeating the points and saying different things. I mean, you focus a lot on the fear and the anxiety and the stresses of it. And then there are a couple other different things that you can do. There's other points and things that you can
Pausing
do.
there, I have never, ever experienced something like this.
How do you feel?
Yeah, and especially in saying those words, it made so much of sense, saying the things that really cause you the fear, which we don't speak like that. I mean, I don't speak and say, oh my God, I'm I'm fearing death and what's going to happen. I never say that. And to be able to say that and then not feel it take over you, not feel it just go all through your body, that is so powerful, Lisa. Ladies and gentlemen, whoever's listening to this on the audio, I really invite you, like with the biggest open arms and heart, that go to the YouTube channel and follow what we just did. I mean, you're going to have all the details of Lisa, so you can have a private session with her and get her expertise on this in a deeper way, but experience this, because it was less than 3 minutes, but something felt different. I mean, when you're making me say that, it was like, I don't want to say that. I don't want to say that. But when I'm saying it, it's out.
Well, that's in because your subconscious, even though you're not saying it, it's running that program and you're kind of calling it out on it and saying, come here, you're out of here.
That's so
Which is why we don't start with the positive, because your subconscious, even though you're speaking the words, your subconscious will be going, nope, bull.
Lie. Yeah, I resonate with that, because even when I do the energy healings, we first start with the clearings. There are like 4 or 5 sessions of clearings.
Right.
Then we will start manifesting, because you can't put gold on crap.
You got to take out the garbage.
Yeah. So I completely, there was such a short session, but I loved it.
I'm so glad.
Sense. Thank you so much, Lisa.
Oh, thank you. I'm excited to be here, and I hope people get in touch with this because it's so helpful. You don't have to suffer.
You don't need to go and do anything. Put on YouTube, get into a class, do stuff together. It's so empowering, because if I can, my biggest takeaway of your story that, we've spoken for like 30, 45 minutes, is you didn't let someone else dictate the end date, the story, how you should feel, what you should choose. You were in proper control of yourself, because you had control up here.
It's the key. It's such
The
the
narrative here was coming from you, not from other people. And I think that is the key of healing.
It is, and they're just talking from statistics, and you're not a statistic. You are a human being, and you have your own power, and yes, they have these studies and these statistics, but they're just that. They're just notes on a piece of paper. They have nothing to do with you.
It's beautiful.
You create your own, become your own statistic.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Lisa, for joining me.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
We're definitely going to be in touch off the show.
Absolutely.
As well. Everyone tuning in on the audio as well as YouTube, all information to connect with Lisa, her YouTube, her Gmail, everything that she does is going to be in the show notes. So please feel free to reach out. I'm definitely going to book an EFT session, and I think you must get that. Until the next time, live a good life, live a big life, and take control of your life by getting a little bit, awareness up here, choosing the stuff in your energy, and doing a lot of research before you agree to anything. Until the next time, bye bye for now from both of us. But before I go, Lisa, I forgot the question. The show is called Say More. What, according to you, should people be saying more about?
They should be saying more about what they're grateful for.
That's nice.
When I was diagnosed with the breast cancer, and I'm not trying to be Pollyanna, but I was really grateful that it was what it was and wasn't what it could have been. Because the more I talk to people, the more it's like, oof, I'm the lucky one. Yeah. I'm the lucky one. And just when you can shift your thinking, when you're down and out or feeling crappy or, you're stressed and all this stuff, if you can focus on a couple things that you're grateful for and you're like, that's an energy of reception, and that's going to bring in more good. Yeah. And I really don't mean to be Pollyanna about it, like, oh, just be happy and everything's great. But if you could really dig deep, and just be conscious where you're at, and nobody's guaranteed tomorrow. And we all think we're going to live forever. And I'm not saying that as a downer, but it's like, yeah, who knows how much time we have, whether you're healthy or not. So let's look at the nature, appreciate the flowers and the birds and everything and where you're at and the people that you're with. And my biggest thing about saying more is to really work on what you allow to, what you listen to, what you read, what you look at, because I do a media blackout. I'm sorry. If I need to know something, I'll find it out. But that is a real form of toxicity.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Your subconscious is getting primed.
Bombarded, fried with all this stuff.
Yes.
So, diagnosis or not, just keep your head clear and clean and, read good things. I don't watch a lot of TV, but, if you do, watch things that are positive and don't get caught up in all the panic and the fear and the doom and gloom.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you once again, Lisa.
Thank you, Kim. This was wonderful. And I love talking to you. And I know we'll be talking a lot more.
Likewise. I know that for a fact. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. I will see you in the next episode. Big love and big hugs.
Thank you.